Hello and welcome to this Oda episode of the Eternal Law. In the last Oda episode we saw the conclusion to the Oda-Takeda War. First we saw Nobunaga going up against one of the remaining Takeda armies and destroying them with a simple formation and a little help from some grenades. With that battle won, General Takayama and General Kiyonori marched south towards the Takeda province and encountered the last remaining Takeda army. He took up a position on a hill, outflanked, and destroyed them, making good use of Long Yari Ashigaru to destroy all of Takeda's remaining elite cavalry. Then, with the war over, all of the Oda forces rushed to the west side of the Oda territory, ready to engage in a war with the Hatano. The first battle of which was a naval battle, fought between the Oda and Hatano navies, and was just about a victory for the Oda forces. Now let's continue. We have not made enemies, we have won enemies. The fact that those inferior clans scowl is a simple sign that we are gaining influence with the holders of true power, and that they disdain it. It is their loss not to trade with us. It is their loss to hold independence so dear. And should they ever assume they have the standing to challenge us, it will be their most grave loss. I understand your concerns, but you must understand that our diplomatic standing matters less every day as our own strength grows. So we're back with the Oda. It's the summer of 1555, and we're just in the aftermath of that naval battle with the Hatano forces. You can see the whole navy there is currently undergoing repairs and recrewing as a result of losses taken in the battle, and we see the Oda armies there ready to invade the Hatano lands. So first we're going to start moving up. I'm moving carefully because I don't know what the Hatano have done. Perhaps they've prepared their border for this invasion, because surely they knew I was going to do it based on the distribution of my forces. So I'm creeping up. You can see there's lots of forests beside the road, so potential for ambush. As I move up, one Hatano army appears, very small. Behind it, a Hatano castle at Tango. And this one is fairly heavily defended. But of course I have 3 full stacks of armies here, so it should be possible for me to overwhelm that castle as long as there's not another Hatano army in the area. So first I'm continuing to cautiously advance. My first move is to try and get rid of this small force which is blocking the road to the castle. They of course withdraw as I move up, realizing what's going on. So now the road to the castle is open, and I can move up, and it's Nobunaga, who advances and begins the siege. You can see the Hatano defenders inside are mostly Katana Samurai. There's a few Katana Samurai and Yari Samurai around as well in the reinforcement group. So I'm just going to move up and not engage this turn, but just make myself known, get all my forces ready to engage with the castle, and then once I've got everyone together I'll go into the attack, perhaps next turn. I'm going to see what the Hatano armies are actually up to. Perhaps I can draw them out whilst my army group is so strong. You can see that in order to try and look for some of the enemy's forces, I moved my ninja out to search the Tamba area, but unfortunately he didn't see any of them. Now we're back over on the far east of the Oda territory. The reason is that, as you may have seen in the last Oda episode, we are now at war with the Honma clan. The Honma clan invaded our Ikko Ikki vassal to the north, so now we're going to begin a campaign against them. General Kiyonori here is leading an army up towards Echigo, where the Honma have a province. So hopefully we'll be able to deal a blow to them and support our allies, the Ikko Ikki. Now in the end turn sequence, the Hatano move a monk up. That monk is trying to convert a Metsuke embedded in one of the armies. We also saw a Hatano army rush into the forest and hide. Interesting. As we reach the end turn sequence, it turns out that monk was successful in converting my Metsuke, so very annoying. And then here we found that the Ikko Ikki were both threatening to attack us and have been destroyed. So it seems that the betrayal of my vassal ceased to be an issue immediately because they were completely destroyed. However, it does mean that the war with the Honma is now a little bit more annoying, because as you can see there are now 2 more Oda provinces exposed to the Honma borders. Piece of good news, a son is born into the Oda clan, so in the future he'll be a great general, I'm sure. And then we get to watch the clan destroyed video for the Ikko Ikki. Let's have a quick look at it. So it's goodbye to our vassals, the Ikko Ikki. It's a shame. Perhaps we'll avenge them by defeating the Honma invaders at some point in the future. But now we're heading back to the western front. You can see an Amako army has appeared. We're at peace with the Amako. The Amako, I think, are at war with the Hatano. So they might have been coming in to try and get in on some of the action. But regardless, I've managed to drive off the supporting force around the castle here. So now I'm able to begin my attack with these 3 huge armies who are ready to go. I also thought I'd take revenge for my converted Metsuke by trying to assassinate the monk who initiated the conversion. Unfortunately, that assassination was a failure, so now my ninja is vulnerable to conversion as well. Hopefully he'll stay true to the Oda cause. Anyway, with all that out of the way, it's time to focus back on the castle. So I'm beginning the siege assault, and you can see that we have a massive force advantage because we have, well, triple their numbers, and our individual soldiers are either better or equal to the enemy's soldiers. Particularly Nobuyuki's army there, because it has armoured troops and matchlock troops. But anyway, we had such an advantage that you can see I decided to auto-resolve the fight. I think my computer would have crashed with that many troops on screen anyway. So there we go, the fight's over. It was very advantageous for us, we didn't lose many men at all. And there we go, delicious victory. And I think that's Nobunaga there, it is, who leveled up. And Tango is ours, very useful. So there's only one more Hatano province left, so this war is almost over. We know they have one army sitting out there in the forest. Perhaps they have some more forces hidden down by their other province, which I actually know at this stage. You can see I spotted a Hatano navy sitting in the docks after I captured the province. So I thought I might as well go over there and attack them, taking a bit of revenge for the naval assault that they did on our docks in the last turn. The enemy navy just runs away, so I started chasing them down. I didn't have enough movement points to finish them off, so perhaps we'll finish them later on. So here's that Hatano army. You can see it's full of katana samurai. Not much variety, but it is led by their daimyo, so definitely a good army to try and take out. So I have these armies here that are ready to be maneuvered, and there are so many forests in the area that I thought I should probably try and exploit them in some way. So first I'm moving Takayama's army into a position to somewhat challenge the Hatano main force. You can stop the enemy forces from moving by just getting very close to them and forcing them to do battle with you. So I was hoping he was close enough for that effect to happen, and then I'm simply making sure that we have reinforcements behind Takayama in case a battle triggers. So now we're jumping right back over to the east side again to see how General Kiyonori's army is going to be getting on. I could see here that the Honma army was moving from Etchu to the east towards Echigo, which meant I probably wasn't going to get invaded on the provinces bordering with Etchu. So I decided not to turn back and defend them, but to continue on with my offensive, moving up towards Echigo with both Kiyonori and this reinforcement group here, just bringing up some extra Ashigaru. Kiyonori's army is actually quite weak, unfortunately. You can see it says it's mainly consisting of long Yari Ashigaru there, with only a few samurai, some 3 units of bow samurai there, which are pretty useful. But anyway, as I moved up to Echigo, we can see there's nobody defending it, just a small group and the town garrison. So I moved up and began the siege. Now I was considering showing this battle, but I wasn't quite sure what to do. First I wanted to see whether I could get my reinforcements up, but there was no chance. And I thought I might as well commence the assault in this turn to make sure no Honma reinforcements come out of the fog of war and surprise me. So Kiyonori is going to begin his assault right away, and I am going to auto-resolve this assault because it seems here that we have quite a large force advantage, and you've probably seen lots of battles like this already. Doubt there's a person in the land who believes we sent men against the Honma to honour the pact with the Ikki. Those far-flung lands are simply soft targets in the eyes of our lord. With that move, all the strength of the clan now lies on or beyond our borders. The interior invites invasion or even betrayal more and more. I am as grateful as any for the peace the clan has brought to our homelands, but I can see the shroud of war on the horizon. These borders are not where the fight of our lives will take place. Now it's time to begin the auto-resolve. We could really do with a favourable result, because the Honma army may just come and try to retake this area, so Kiyonori needs as many troops alive as he can. It's a relatively favourable result. Definitely no losses to really be concerned about, and we'll make some of those men back by recruiting from soldiers in the local area. So the castle is ours. Oh snap.
It is dangerous to be the tallest tree, for that is where the axe strikes first. We are victims of conspiracy. I am called an enemy of the state. We must have vigilance. We must prepare for war.
So the bad news is that capturing that province has caused a realm divide. A realm divide is an event where you become such a famous and powerful clan that the Shogun conspires with all of the other clans to mutually ally against you. So this is an enormous issue, and really it's inevitable in one of these campaigns that this will happen eventually. So what it means is it's now going to test the trust of our allies. Will they stay with us, or will they join the growing alliance of enemies, which is going to begin creating itself right as I end the turn. So let's just head in there and see how bad the damage is. First thing that happens is the Shimazu and their huge empire to the west decides to declare war on us. Fair enough. They're also bringing in the Chosokabe there.
Enough talk.
Now the Tokugawa betrayed us in this diplomatic encounter, so they've broken off their alliance with the Oda. The alliance that stood the test of history is gone. So we're now at war with the Shimazu. Not a huge issue because their empire is so far from ours. I don't feel particularly threatened by their activities. They'll probably be more worried by their more proximate wars. The Tokugawa betraying us is an issue because if they were then to go to war with us, they could just attack Owari immediately. The Tokugawa kind of do go to war with us. Through this action they decide to attack the Hattori, who of course are our vassal clan. So they are showing great disrespect towards the allies of Oda. And now I have an option to go to war with the Tokugawa to support the Hattori, or to break off my alliance with the Hattori to avoid war with the Tokugawa. And that's the one I do, because even if I can put off war with the Tokugawa for a single turn, it may allow me to prepare Owari for their almost inevitable invasion. In fact, you can see Tokugawa forces already wandering around in Owari there. So now the Uesugi and a huge bunch of their allies decide to jointly declare war on me.
Many will have cause to rue this day. We will pray for your souls for what you have done.
Inconvenient. Again, Uesugi not so much of a threat because I haven't really seen them very recently. The Hatakeyama, who joined the war, I think through some of the alliance deals there, start marching on Yamato province with 2 armies, one of which lays siege to the castle. So this is bad news. Now the Yamanouchi are declaring war. Potential threat because they are on the border of North Shinano. North Shinano, which is now almost completely unguarded as a result of Kinori being up in Echigo. So the turn finally comes around and we see that all of the clans that didn't declare war on us in the end turn sequence then joined into the alliance at the end of the end turn sequence. So the basic summary is that we're at war with every clan on the map but for a couple of them. And I think the 2 we're not at war with might be the Tokugawa and the Hattori at this stage. I'm given a mission which is to defeat one of the invading armies that's about to come for us. I mean, here's an example of one of them, the Hatakeyama army laying siege to Yamato right here. The Realm Divide has also changed the situation up here on the Hatano battlefront because this Amako army is now at war with us, so we're going to have to contend with that as well as the Hatano armies, one of which appears to be down towards its castle. Perhaps that was the one hidden in the forest. You can see I'm taking some final revenge on this monk by sending my ninja after him to assassinate him. I finally avenged the dishonor of my Metsuke who betrayed us in the previous turn. But of course this isn't the only area that's under threat from the Realm Divide event. We need to deal with things down in Owari, where we are now at war with the Tokugawa and thus have a border between our home province and hostile province, and in fact a hostile army already walking through Owari. So I was recruiting some troops there, as you can see. We're also going to have to deal with the situation in North Shinano, now bordered by the Yamanouchi and Tokugawa, who could invade. Meanwhile, Echigo itself is in trouble. It could be invaded from all directions. However, I am not going to attempt to defend it. because it's just too far flung from the rest of my empire. I'm just going to abandon Echigo to whatever fate befalls it. I'm moving Kinori's army back down towards North Shinano in order to deal with any future incursions which will inevitably occur. We're back on the west side now, and I'm checking out the situation with the Hatakeyama sieging force. It's fairly strong, and you can see just behind it there was a reinforcement army that was ready to come down, so I needed to deal with that situation in this turn. Meanwhile, I can think about what to do with this Amako army. Since I have a huge numerical advantage in the area, the first thing I can do is force it to move back a little. However, it moves back and to the side, so it actually doesn't move very far away from the battlefront. So still, we're under risk of this Amako army coming down and trying to attack the castle. So I position my forces ready to ambush them if they do. Meanwhile, the garrison inside the castle really has other things it needs to be doing, because having all three of my armies out here on the edge of my territory is not a very good arrangement when I could be invaded from any direction really at any time. So I'm moving Nobunaga back with the main Oda force to come and stand near the castle at Wakasa, where you can see two Hattori armies, which at the moment are not at war with me. They're still peaceful towards me as a result of their previous loyalty through vassalship. But they are just standing there next to my castle, highly suspicious, and I was expecting them to do something and potentially betray me at any point. So I've moved Nobunaga down simply to guard against that eventuality. Now, as I said, I need to deal with this siege situation. We have a disadvantage in terms of the sheer forces on either side. You see the enemy army has tons of katana samurai backed up by some heavy naginata samurai. They have no missile units whatsoever, which means they're going to be forced to go into a charge right away to stop me from just whittling them down. So I have that one piece of strategic info on my side. Let's see what I can do. Oh, they all agreed, did they? Wonderful! How do you like that, Nobuhide? I shall be drinking sake from your skull before the year is through. Or is that a little much? Perhaps just a feast or three in his dishonour. Oh, the thought of those Oda mites being cornered and crashed across the land just makes me want to jump for joy. See so many clans holding loyalty to their dear Shogun, even in this dark time. It's almost enough to make one cry. And so the Oda sally begins. The Hatakeyama army is out in the distance, and here we see the Oda force taking up position atop this small ridge on the edge of the hills just outside of Yamato Castle. The position is going to give me a very good defensive line, because I know for sure that the Hatakeyama are going to be charging me because of my missile advantage, as I said earlier. You can see my tactic is to position a long Yariashigaru spear wall along the ridge of the mountainside. There are only certain viable paths for the enemy to come up this mountain, so they're going to have to be bunched together and then force their way uphill through the spear wall to get to the rest of my army, which consists of archers here in the second line and a large contingent of katana samurai behind it, who are acting at the moment as a heavy reserve to come in and fill gaps in the line. The enemy are just reaching the foot of the hill, and the archers begin to unleash on them with flaming arrows. The fire arrows won't be doing very much damage, especially because it's an awkward angle, but it does affect the enemy morale to have to be running uphill into this barrage of flaming arrows. You can see that they are beginning to focus together their units and charge up in more of a column formation than a wide line, which was what I was hoping would happen because of the mountainous approach. You can see they're not coming in simultaneously either. Certain parts of their line are going to reach ours sooner rather than later. However, since my strategy is just to lock them in place, this isn't going to be a disadvantage for them, luckily. Well, luckily from their perspective. So you can see they're beginning to engage. Their charge has lost all its momentum because they had to come all the way uphill. And the spear wall is able to push them a little bit back down the hill as they arrive and start killing some of the guys at the front. So for the starting section of this battle, the spear wall is going to be holding. You can see here they're really piling in, and again the spear wall is just jabbing out, stopping them from actually getting too close to my men. So the reach of their weapons is just too small to affect this area of the spear wall. Here again the enemy are focusing their attack on the spear wall, not being able to get through. Here on the far left flank, the spear wall isn't as powerful because it only has normal Yariashigaru, so they can't really present as much of a barrier. However, they are still finding it difficult to get through them just by the sheer amount of troops who are positioned on that part of the ridge. Here a little bit later in the battle, you can see the enemy are starting to get through the spears with sheer weight of numbers here. They also tried a few flank attacks, however I have such a large reserve that they have no chance of getting away. You can see some of my warrior monks who were holding the right flank have fallen back. I'm now moving some of the katana reserve in to plug the gap. Now the enemy are also fighting with katana samurai, however the enemy's katana samurai are tired. They've had to run up that hill and they've been taking losses from the fighting so far, so they're not going to be in the best state of morale either. So it should be possible for my katana samurai to push them back off the hill at this point. You can see I'm also firing arrows over the top of the spear wall into the large bunches of enemy troops to take out a few of them here and there. In this area the spear wall is almost completely broken and the enemy are actually about to get through, so this is bad news, but of course I do have a large reserve and I'm sure at some point in the battle I'll be noticing this and plugging the gap. Here the spear wall is holding a little bit better, just because the enemy is coming up such a steep incline they can't really get close enough to attack it, so they're just taking constant losses. There's a similar deal here. You can see the huge pile of enemy bodies in front of where the spear wall is, representing where they just couldn't break through, and barely any Oda losses here at all by the looks of things. So it's more good news.
Our general is in grave danger, my lord!
Further along the line the fight continues. You can see my katana samurai have come onto the enemy side of the spear wall to start doing a little raid and taking some of them out. We've pretty much cleared the enemy off one part of the hill here. There's still a large concentration of enemy troops on the left flank. Far more troops than we have on the left flank, so we're not quite able to get rid of them. However, the centre is beginning to break. You can see enemy units running away because I moved in marathon monks, and marathon monks are able to emit a chilling war cry which causes all of the enemy units in the area to lose their morale. And since they were already in a dangerous situation, this loss of morale caused them to just flee from the hilltop entirely. So now the few men brave enough to stand their ground are being swamped as the spear wall moves down and starts poking at them and stabbing away. Over on our right flank the enemy still has quite a few troops, however they're seeing the centre break and they know they're in trouble. I'm deploying all of my reserves, even getting the bow samurai to draw their swords and charge the enemy just to break their morale. And at this point the entire enemy army starts routing from the hill. So this Hatakeyama army is turning and flying from the Oda forces, even though in the beginning they had a definitive force advantage. It's a decisive victory for the Oda forces, coming mainly through a terrain advantage there and the careful use of spears to keep the enemy's heavy troops away from our lighter troops to give us time to destroy them elsewhere on the battlefield. A very nice victory, but of course there's one more Hatakeyama army to deal with back out on the strategy map. We took a few hundred losses and one of the units of warrior monks that was in the Oda army was destroyed. However, over 2,000 Hatakeyama troops were killed, so an extremely positive outcome. But still you can see there's another army right there that's going to be assaulting this now depleted Oda force in the near future, so hopefully they'll have enough time to get ready and hopefully the battle will go favourably next time as well. I'm moving Oda Nobuhide, our daimyo, from Mino, where he was stationed, over to Umi, where there's a small army waiting for him because Mino is now in trouble. There's a Tokugawa army in the area which could invade, so I'm just making sure the head of the clan is safe. So now we're moving through into the next turn and seeing what the enemy forces are up to. The Tokugawa are moving armies and agents in the edges of our territory and in the centre down on Owari, which is bad news. Even worse news, a huge Tokugawa navy comes to engage the main Oda naval force. Both sides have approximately equal strength, however the enemy has just about a strength advantage. They have more ships and ships of better quality. So it looks like a decisive naval battle for control of the waters around Owari is about to take place. If I can win, it'll give me a chance to defeat the other smaller Tokugawa navies and have complete control of this area. If I lose, the Tokugawa will surely destroy any hopes we have of trading again and raid our ports, destroying the prosperity of our inland territories. So let's head into the battle and see how it goes. Betrayal. Betrayal! Is there anything worse a man can do when swords have already been drawn? Those men who I made, who I pulled up from the mud to the heights of their towers, they dare say that I'm Japan's enemy? Then let me ask them this. If all these men of dishonour consider me to be wrong, doesn't that prove that I, Nobuhide, am the one daimyo who walks on the path of virtue? Let them come. Let them all come and see how each Oda man takes 10 of theirs. We shall see the Sengoku Jidai end soon, one way or another. the battle opens. The Oda ships simply lined up, as was the Tokugawa fleet. However, the Tokugawa fleet has a large contingent of reinforcements coming from the south side of the map, behind its line as it is now. The Oda fleet does actually have 2 trade ships coming in as reinforcement from the east side of the map, potentially useful anyway. You can see the Tokugawa fleet is mostly made up of these heavy Sengoku bunes with huge melee orientated crews. So what they're going to want to do is board with my ship, so that's the last thing I can let them do. The first thing I tried to do was draw the Sengoku bune away from my medium bunes, because that would be the most disastrous outcome, would be for them to take up my medium bunes right in the beginning. The only hope for me is to use my medium bune's strong archer contingent to kill all of the melee troops in Sengoku bune before the boarding actions occur. So my objective was to just try and run rings around the Tokugawa navy, constantly pepper them with arrows, killing the men positioned on the decks before the boarding action occurred, and this would allow me to actually have a chance of victory. I also have the Bokoboyos on my side, which can use flaming arrows. However, the Sengoku bune are too big to be taken down by fire. You can't really set them on fire without hundreds and hundreds of flaming arrows being stuck into them. So it wasn't really an option to burn them out, but the flaming arrows do demoralize them, and they help pierce the armor of the men on board. And so the first phase of the battle just became an arrow fight, with me constantly running away from the enemy and bombarding them with arrows. My crew was being gradually killed in the process because they were firing back. However, we did manage to kill a very large number of the Tokugawa crewmen. You can see here Sengoku bune, almost all of its crew dead. We can see that we just forced an enemy Bokoboyo to surrender by firing a volley of arrows at them close range back there. Now boarding actions are beginning. You can see the Sengoku bune crew jumping up onto the medium bune, which is actually what I didn't want to happen. However, if you look at the deck of the Sengoku bune, you can see dead bodies are covering it. So it's already taken so many arrows and so many losses that they've lost their definitive advantage in the boarding action. So things aren't so bad. More boarding actions are lined up as the enemy Sengoku bune start closing in with the medium bune, who now can't really escape because they're undercrewed and they've lost their battle speed ability, which I used at the beginning of the engagement, which allows them to go faster than normal. The Sengoku bunes are very fast when sailing into the wind. You can see here one of the enemy Sengoku bunes, I believe the one belonging to their admiral, surrenders to us because too many of their crew were killed in that boarding action they attempted. So this is good news. We can see out here on the edge, more enemy Sengoku bunes are coming into the map. There's 3 more coming in now, so even as I defeat these enemy ships, more ships are simply coming in to replace them, but there's no one coming in to replace the fact that I lost so many crew members in the process. So it's beginning to look a little bit hairy. My trade ships have now arrived at the engagement, but they're being blocked off by these 2 enemy Bokoboyos. So both the trade ships attempt to board those Bokoboyos since they have similar crew sizes. It should be an even fight. Now we're a little bit later and the fight is continuing much as it was before, with my ship simply running away from the enemy ships, constantly bombarding them with arrows, and it's actually going very well because the medium bunes can go fast enough to break the ropes of the boarding actions and stop the enemy from boarding. And then this very unfortunate event occurs. An enemy ship which had caught fire crashed into my Sengoku bune, which was my real trump card that I was going to use in an emergency, and my ship caught fire and the entire crew immediately abandoned it. And I was a little bit perplexed by this because I noticed the enemy ship, which is on fire, had not been abandoned. If we go over and have a look at it, you can see the enemy crew are patiently working to repair the ship and just sitting there as their cabin burns. So it seems that the Tokugawa navalmen have a little bit more morale than ours. To see how the rest of the fight goes, we'll have to wait until the next Oda episode. That's all for this episode. Join me for the return to the peaceful Takeda lands next time on the Eternal Law.